Trinity College, Cambridge, October 1805. A young man arrives for his first term as a university student. He's 17 years old, recently inherited a title and fortune, and he's brought a companion with him. Not a servant, not a valet, a bear. George Gordon Byron, Lord Byron, walks through Cambridge leading a tame bear on a chain. Students stop and stare. Dons are horrified. The college authorities rush to confront him. "You can't keep a bear in your rooms." Byron's response is brilliant. "Show me where in the college statutes it says I can't." The authorities frantically search the rule book. Dogs are prohibited, explicitly, in writing. But bears? Nothing. Not a single mention. Byron wins. The bear stays. And for the next 3 years, one of English literature's greatest poets lives with a bear in his Trinity College dorm room, walking it on a leash, talking to it like a pet, and allegedly trying to enroll it as a student. This is the story of Bruin the bear, Lord Byron's malicious compliance masterpiece, and what happens when a rebellious genius decides to exploit a loophole. The rule that started it all. When Lord Byron arrived at Trinity College, Cambridge in 1805, he had a problem. He wanted to bring his dog. Specifically, he wanted his bulldog Smut to join him at university. According to the statutes of the college, dogs were not allowed to be kept on the college grounds. The rule was clear, explicit, non-negotiable. Byron was furious. He was a devoted animal lover, had been since childhood. He'd grown up surrounded by pets at his estate at Newstead Abbey. The idea of attending university without an animal companion was unacceptable. But Byron wasn't just angry. He was creative. If the rules said no dogs, then he'd find something else, something technically legal, something that would expose how ridiculous the prohibition was. He decided on a bear. It's unclear exactly where Byron acquired the bear. Some sources suggest it had been trained for the circus, which would explain why it was so tame. Others speculate he purchased it from a traveling menagerie or animal dealer. What is clear is that Byron showed up at Trinity College in October 1805 with a tame bear, announced he was keeping it as a pet, and dared the college authorities to stop him. The college authorities had an argument with the poet, but since there was no mention of pet bears in the statutes of the college, they had no legal right to expel the bear or its owner. Byron had found the perfect loophole, and he exploited it shamelessly. Living with Bruin. Byron named his bear Bruin, a traditional name for bears in European folklore, and he treated Bruin exactly like he would have treated a dog. He walked the bear on a chain and treated it like a dog. He would talk to it the way people talk to their pets. Witnesses reported seeing Byron leading Bruin around the Trinity College grounds, the bear walking obediently on its chain like an oversized, furry dog. Students watched in amazement. Dons watched in horror. Byron allegedly wanted to have the bear apply as a student at the college since there were also no rules explicitly saying that bears cannot be students. Whether he actually attempted this, or whether it was just Byron's sense of humor showing through, is unclear. But Byron did write about it, suggesting he would try to get Bruin to sit for a fellowship. In a letter to his friend Elizabeth Pigott, dated October 26, 1807, Byron openly talks about his new friend, who he says is the finest in the world, a tame bear. When asked what he meant to do with him, Byron's reply was characteristically outrageous: to try and make him a stud. Byron also wrote about the bear in his poem Hints from Horace, mentioning one of his unfortunate tutors, Reverend George Frederick Tavel, who was doomed to daily cares by pugilistic pupils and by bears. The bear wasn't just a pet, it was a statement, a living, breathing symbol of Byron's defiance of authority and his contempt for arbitrary rules. The bear on tour. Bruin didn't stay confined to Cambridge. Byron took his bear everywhere. In 1830, a local newspaper, the Derbyshire Courier and Chesterfield Gazette, reported an astonishing coach journey between London and Cambridge. Byron and Bruin traveled together as passengers on a public coach, with the bear wearing one of Byron's hats. The story, recounted by Byron's friend and fellow poet, Thomas Moore, is extraordinary. A fellow passenger failed to recognize that Byron's companion was a bear. Irritated by the loud snoring, the man pulled at what he thought was the gentleman's jacket, only to discover he'd grabbed fur instead of buttons. Imagine the shock. You're on a coach. Someone next to you is snoring. You reach over to wake them, and you realize you've just grabbed a bear. Byron reportedly found this hilarious. He also took Bruin on day trips to Newmarket and to watch cockfights. There are even tales that Byron would box with the bear, though how much of this is fact versus exaggerated legend is impossible to know. What is certain is that Byron and Bruin were inseparable during Byron's time at Cambridge. The bear was his constant companion, his protest against authority, and his entertainment. Byron's Zoo. The bear wasn't Byron's only exotic pet. It was just the most famous. Throughout his 36 years of life, Byron kept an extraordinary menagerie. The list of animals is staggering. An Egyptian crane, peacocks, guinea hens, a honey badger, a crocodile, monkeys, a falcon, a fox, a goat, a crow, horses, cats, dogs, and more. At Newstead Abbey, his ancestral estate, Byron maintained what was essentially a private zoo. Animals roamed the house and grounds. His pets weren't confined to stables or kennels. They lived with him, indoors, as companions. Byron's most famous dog was Bosun, a Newfoundland he acquired in 1803. When Bosun died of rabies in 1808, Byron was devastated. He commissioned an elaborate monument for the dog at Newstead Abbey, larger and more impressive than his own eventual grave. The inscription reads, "Near this spot are deposited the remains of one who possessed beauty without vanity, strength without insolence, courage without ferocity, and all the virtues of man without his vices." Byron loved animals in ways that were unusual for his era. He didn't just collect them as status symbols. He genuinely cared for them, talked to them, mourned them. The bear at Cambridge was part of this lifelong pattern. Byron didn't get Bruin just to annoy the college authorities, though that was certainly a bonus. He got Bruin because he wanted an animal companion. East London, and when the college said no dogs, he found another way. What happened to Bruin? When Byron left Cambridge in 1808, he took the bear with him to his estate in London. After that, Bruin disappears from historical records. We don't know how long the bear lived. We don't know what eventually happened to him. Byron mentions the bear in letters and poems written during and shortly after his Cambridge years. But after that, silence. Given that Byron continued traveling extensively, living in Switzerland, Italy, and Greece, it's unlikely he could have kept a bear with him. He probably found Bruin a new home, perhaps at an estate or menagerie where the bear could live out his days. But the legend remained. The story of Lord Byron and his Cambridge bear became one of the most famous anecdotes in literary history. It appears in biographies, histories of Cambridge, collections of eccentric behavior. Byron ensured his bear would be remembered, even if the bear himself faded into obscurity. why it mattered. On one level, the bear story is just funny. A rebellious student exploits a loophole and keeps a wild animal in his dorm room. It's the kind of prank that becomes legend. But on another level, it reveals something deeper about Byron's character and his relationship with authority. Byron wrote, "I had a great hatred of college rules, and the bear seemed to be the personification of that hatred. The bear wasn't just a pet, it was a protest, a middle finger to institutions that tried to control him." Byron came from enormous privilege. He inherited his title at age 10. He had wealth, status, and the freedom to do essentially whatever he wanted. He could have simply accepted the no-dogs rule and moved on. Instead, he fought it, not by petitioning for a rule change or arguing for an exception, by finding a loophole and exploiting it in the most dramatic, attention-grabbing way possible. That's pure Byron. He didn't just break rules, he exposed their absurdity. The dog prohibition was arbitrary. Why dogs but not bears? If you're going to make rules, make them sensible. Don't create loopholes large enough to fit a bear. The Cambridge authorities learned this lesson the hard way. The Byronic personality. The bear story also perfectly encapsulates what scholars call the Byronic hero, a character type Byron both created in his poetry and embodied in his life. Byronic heroes are charismatic, but flawed, rebellious, but brilliant, capable of great passion and great cruelty. They defy authority, challenge norms, and live according to their own rules. Byron himself was all of these things. He was a gifted poet who revolutionized English literature. He was also selfish, manipulative, and morally questionable. He fought for Greek independence and died a hero. He also seduced countless women, abandoned lovers, and behaved appallingly toward people he claimed to care about. The bear fits into this pattern. It's simultaneously admirable, standing up to arbitrary authority, and ridiculous. It's clever, malicious compliance that serves no practical purpose except to prove a point. That's Byron. Brilliant and petty, principled and childish, heroic and absurd. All at once, all in one person and one bear. The legacy. Today the story of Byron's bear is part of Trinity College folklore. Tour guides tell it. Students repeat it. It's become one of Cambridge's most beloved historical anecdotes. The bear represents something universities still struggle with. How do you control brilliant, rebellious students without crushing the creativity that makes them brilliant? Byron went on to become one of the greatest poets in English literature. His works, Don Juan, Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, She Walks in Beauty, are still read and studied today. He died at 36, fighting for Greek independence, and became an international hero. Would he have achieved all this if Cambridge had successfully controlled him? If they'd shut down his bear, enforced strict rules, made him conform? Maybe, maybe not. The bear story suggests that Byron's genius and his rebelliousness were inseparable. You couldn't have one without the other. Cambridge couldn't stop him from keeping a bear, and the world couldn't stop him from becoming Byron. The final roar. So here's what happened. In 1805, Trinity College, Cambridge told Byron he couldn't bring his dog. Byron responded by bringing a bear instead. The college had no rule against bears, so the bear stayed. For 3 years, Bruin lived in Byron's rooms. Byron walked him on a chain, took him on trips, allegedly tried to enroll him as a student. The bear became a legend. When Byron left Cambridge in 1808, he took the bear with him. After that, Bruin disappears from history. But the story remains. A perfect example of malicious compliance, a brilliant exploitation of a loophole, a rebellious genius making a point in the most dramatic way possible. Next time someone tells you that's against the rules, remember Lord Byron and his bear. Check if there's a loophole, and if there is, exploit it spectacularly, preferably with a large furry mammal,